One.
Salesman.
I hope that I'm not just selling my body here. I hope that I'm selling my personality.
Psychologist.
You have to be an understanding and caring person, and you have to be a very good listener.
Teacher.
Hopefully he leaves me happy, and I'm feeling happy too.
Prostitute.
The way I see it, I'm serving the community. I don't see any harm in going to pay for something that you want.
Frank's story. Tomorrow at 10:45 on BBC One.
Before part 2 of Mission of the Shark here on BBC One, an update from Crimewatch UK.
Welcome back. Our first appeal this evening was to identify the person seen with a young Czech student on Sunday, shortly before she boarded a train in Hastings. Later that afternoon, she'd been attacked and was found in a coma in a train lavatory. Only 10 calls so far, but 2 names have been put forward, both of men living in the Hastings area. Also, a substantial number of calls on those sex attacks in Rayleigh.
Let's start in detail on the case that caused huge publicity when it happened 2 months ago, but which nonetheless has generated a big response tonight. Over 80 calls here in the studio alone. The murder of 14-year-old Kate Bushell while she was walking a dog near her home in Devon. Our reconstruction featured 3 suspicious figures: an unidentified van driver, a man seen running from the area, and above all, a vagrant. Mike Stevens, I think most of the calls have been about the vagrant.
Yes, we expected that anyway, but we have received a couple of calls regarding a blue van and a man actually who had a blue van. A man who was said to be in the Exeter area around about November time. Now, funnily enough, both these calls related to an area in Hertfordshire. Now, that's an interesting thing which we are trying to follow up this evening.
Really? You were also trying to find people, probably local people, who'd had some sort of den in the area. Perhaps children have played in there, or perhaps grown-ups have been there. Any response on that?
No, we're still hoping that people will come forward on that. Obviously, we've had a tremendous response from the local people, and we continue to have that again this evening. But we do need that little bit of information about that particular point itself.
It looks like this is going to be a long haul, this inquiry.
It looks very much that way, and obviously we are very much keyed up for that. But we're also very appreciative of the help we've had thus far.
All right, thank you very much.
Well, first that goring deception. We've had 12 calls, including one that's given us a name that links into something that appears on the photograph that looks exciting. Benefits fraudster, 19 calls there, with 4 what are described as very interesting names. Northants fraudster, 21 calls there with 5 names, 2 putting him in the same town. Caledonian road stabbing, 36 calls with 15 names. 1 in particular looks promising, the officers tell me. And finally, Plymouth attack, 14 calls. The same name has been given twice at the incident room.
We've had an encouraging number of calls on our next case. Not bad, considering it's a reappeal on a crime that happened last summer and which we reported on last autumn. But this time there was a wealth of new information provided by a call to Crimewatch. 2 children were accosted by a man in Primrose Valley near Whitkirk in Leeds, and one of them was raped.
Have you caught out yet?
Just a few frogs and toads.
Well, having seen our reconstruction, one viewer recognised the man as someone she'd seen running to a car. Mark Smith, obviously you're very grateful to that sharp-eyed viewer.
I am indeed.
Has it thrown up any new information?
Well, with her help, I've been able to publicise this Datsun motor car, and we've been appealing for people to come forward with information about that car. We have had a lot of information with regard to the EFIT and suggestions about people who may be the EFIT. I'm still looking for information. I would like people to still ring in with information with regard to this Datsun car, particularly the one with the classic badge on the back.
Now this
Sorry.
You believe it's a Bluebird?
I believe it's a Bluebird. It's on the back of it there's a classic badge, and nobody yet has told me about a classic badge.
Well, it's very recognisable, as you say. Let's hope someone does call in with that information.
I hope they do.
Thank you.
Now, to be honest, we didn't expect many calls on our next case. All we needed was the right one. But we've, to some extent, been confounded by the scale of the response. 52 calls so far. Viewers ringing in, hoping to solve one of the most audacious robberies in Britain.
Hurry up, John, hurry up! Get Get down! Get down on
The
the floor!
gunman drove off in about the most flamboyant style imaginable. It happened in Kent, and it's been linked to an earlier robbery in Surrey. And Britain, a very, very big reward on this one. There's £40,000 reward being put up just for the Frimley robbery in October 1996. There may be more on this one. Presumably people from the underworld are less likely to ring the studio, more likely to contact you directly. But what have you got among these 50 or so calls?
Yes, we've had a very good response. There's lots of people who have put forward names in relation to the EFITs. I'm still looking for someone who has connections with this team of robbers.
They'd had a bunch of vehicles, some of which they'd kept hidden for 2 years. I mean, they'd really put a lot of planning into this. Presumably, people might have identified those faces with those vehicles or known mobsters who were keeping vehicles for that long.
Yes, wherever those vehicles have been kept, there must be people that know about this, and I urge these people to contact me with this information.
Okay, is there anything in particular that stands out, or is it just still stuff you've really got to sort through?
It is, there's so many calls here, and a lot of them do relate to the EFITs.
All right, thanks very much, Anne.
Lots of faces for you to find tonight. Firstly, Jason Tibbs. A low number of calls, but high quality. I think we'll be hearing some good news on this case soon. Next, Michael Coy. A call here from a possible further victim, but no one's told us where he is. Perhaps you can. Then there was Leslie Ann White. 2 very positive leads, and officers are very happy with the response so far. Paul David Roach. 6 calls, 1 possible sighting, so keep ringing in on him. Michael Good. 13 calls and some new information, but we need to know where he is now. And finally, Joseph Pius Dalton. A dozen calls, including some sightings, but as with all these faces, if you know where he is, ring in now.
3 days ago, the body of a 15-year-old schoolgirl, Hannah de Turville, was found in Greenford in West London. We were appealing tonight for the person who tipped off the police about that find, who found the body, to call in. He hasn't done so. He actually called a gay and lesbian helpline originally. We asked him to come forward. He hasn't yet done so. Please do so.
Finally, the attacks on children in the town of Rayleigh in Essex, a series of crimes which has grown more serious over 18 months. Cliff Haynes, a man with a lot more work on his hands as a result of tonight, I think.
Yes, we've been working for months on this case and we've had a great response. We've been inundated with calls, we've had new names. What I also need is sightings of this person. I'm sure he was lurking around on all the attacks before, and we need new sightings of this, but it's been an excellent response.
And also, as a result of his behaviour, you wanted to hear from people who may have known the man personally.
Yes, if he's in a relationship, he may well be violent and uncaring. I'm sure someone must know who he is. If they know his description or if they recognise the person, please come forward and we'll treat the information very sensitively.
And again, these attacks happened between September 96.
September 96, August 97.
Well, let's hope you catch him. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Well, that's all for this month. Our lines are closing around now here in the studio in 2 or 3 minutes' time, but you'll see other numbers in a moment, and they're also listed on CFAX on page 621. You can email us if you're on electronic net at crimewatchuk at the BBC. That's cwuk@bbc.co.uk. And of course, we'll pass all information on to the investigating officers. And if you've any details or information about a crime we haven't covered, you can always ring Crime Stoppers, 0800 555 111.
We'll be back next month, back 4 weeks from now on Tuesday, February the 24th.
Meantime, don't have nightmares. Sleep well. Good night.
Good night.
There are some mornings.
Barry! Just passing. See ya. Let's take you all, you zombie!
When it would be safer to stay in bed.
What do you want to for?
I've got this woman. Pregnant.
My name is Rick. The kids at the youth club call me Rick the Vic.
Only in this madhouse. Roger, Roger.
Thursday at 9:30 on BBC One.
What line of business in then? I own a minicab firm.
Now on BBC One, part 2 of tonight's film, Mission of the Shark.
When I get home, we'll lie in the hammock and just swing back and forth.